American football is a game that, when you really sit down and think about it, it's probably a physical game of chess. In other words, if you were to sit on a chessboard, you would move people little bit at a time. There's some strategy and some thought process that goes behind it. American football is the same thing, where physically people are moving choreographed on their own, and every time you see them get in a huddle, they're planning a strategy. And then you click that little button like in a chess game, and the next play, though, the next move takes place. And that's American football. It's physical chess. There's an awful lot that goes on behind the scenes, and that's why, as you watch American football, a lot of the successful teams talk about chemistry. They talk about how well they get along together. They talk about how many years they've been together as a football team. One of the obstacles that we have to overcome here in NFL Europe is our team is just thrown together about 3 or 4 weeks ago, and it takes time to develop that camaraderie and that togetherness and to establish that type of discipline. It's no different than any other organization, any other business. If you're going to run a huge company, you have to have those that give direction. You have to have those that understand their role, that maybe it's manual labor. Your offensive linemen are your manual laborers. Your quarterback is your leader of the group, and vice versa on defense. Your defensive linemen are your manual laborers. Your linebackers are the guys who give direction and whatnot. And then, of course, you have individual coaches that are head of departments, and the head coach can be looked upon as the chief executive officer. Players are getting bigger and faster. People are getting bigger and faster every day that we exist. You know, when I started playing the game myself, and I played in college, an offensive lineman was big when he was 240 pounds. Now you're 340 pounds and you're probably average. That's a little bit of an exaggeration, but you very rarely find offensive lines that are not over 300. So the speed of the game is much quicker than it once was, and certainly the size of human beings and certainly the size of our players are bigger than ever. One of the things that you learn about the game of football is everybody puts on a uniform. And when you look in Webster's English Dictionary, uniform is described as the same. So certainly to take into consideration whether somebody's from Germany, whether he's from America, whether he's from Tennessee, or whether he's from Japan is really inconsequential. We don't take a look at that at all. How well does a player perform? How well does a player produce? I love seeing the game spread internationally. I love seeing the game having an interest in China, in Japan, in Sweden, in Germany. But as far as when it comes to a team, it's no consideration whatsoever. Our quarterback is a very important part of what we do, but at the same point in time, your quarterback's as good as your offensive line and wide receivers. And certainly if you can have a running game, that enhances everything. So I don't know if you can separate it and say this position is more important. I look for us to be a very aggressive defensive football team. I'd like to think we'll be a productive offensive football team. And should a star player emerge, it'll happen by accident. It won't happen by design. We've always been much more of a passing-oriented football team. We like to have big plays. We like to play exciting football. And I would certainly like to think that this year will be no different, that we'll play an exciting brand of football that fans love to come to see. How many should? They should fill the place. I'd love to see us pack this place. I think that would probably be a little bit of an unrealistic expectation this first week, but eventually that's our goal. I'd like to see the stadium sold out. I know the World Bowl is in Dusseldorf, but I'm not worried about June, whatever that date happens to be right now. I'm just worried about April 2nd when we host Hamburg here. That's the important thing right now. The things that we talked about, they play great together as a team. They have no individual stars, and they've got an awful lot of experienced players. And Bill Belichick does a good job of keeping everything on an even keel. And that's what we all have to do. Just keep things on an even keel and take the good with the bad, and we'll see what happens. The NFL season to me right now seems so long ago. Wow, I think Atlanta was a little bit of a surprise. I thought the Steelers were a little bit of a surprise. Those are the first two that come to my head. Conversely, Kansas City was probably a little bit of a surprise as far as a disappointment was concerned. I think expectations of them was a little bit higher. Miami was probably a little bit of a surprise. Expectations were probably higher. So that's just off the top of my head. The one that's near and dear to my heart, Cullen Jenkins. I think he started just about every game for the Green Bay Packers.